You know, it's true, brother Harold Lee. Calgary is just a phone call away, my friend. And somebody else that was a phone call away was Donald Trump with President Vladimir Putin. They were just a phone call away,
Vladimir
uh,
Putin.
not too long ago, and they had a 2 hour discussion. Now, I like how
Poop is poop.
precise. I love how precise that
Poop is
was. They
poop.
said he had
Love
a
is
two
love.
hour discussion. That's what they said. 2 hours. Wow. Okay. 120 minutes. Was there a timer? I just wanted to, did they take out their iPhones and just like turn it? I don't know. But they said it was 2 hours long. And I like what Trump said. I don't know if you guys saw. I don't know if you guys saw what Trump said, but he was like, hey, it went well. If it didn't go well, I would tell you right now so you don't find out later when things aren't going well. So he did say the call went well. And I saw a few different perspectives that were saying, wow, he's incredibly naive for trusting in Putin, or, maybe Putin is expressing, that something to him that really is making him think that he wants to stop. I want to hear your guys' take, but first I'll just tell you mine. Um, I don't. Mine is it's kind of a dual take. I don't know. I I don't know if Trump actually believes or not that Putin is it actually wants to make peace. All of his actions suggest the opposite, that he wants to make peace. But either way, if Trump believed that Putin didn't want to make peace and that he's just stringing him along because he knows that Trump said, I will walk away from this if I can't get a deal done. And Putin's like, ooh, that sounds great. If Trump thinks he's going to do that, I think the play and the move would still be to go out on the world stage in good negotiating fashion and say, yeah, it sounds like he wants to do a deal, because the moment Trump decides, and I know he wants to, and you could say this is terrible because people are getting killed, but the moment I think he optically, you don't want to just do something drastic without having a trail that shows, hey, I tried. And I really think it's just a matter of time before he has enough reason that the world has seen. He's tried to be Mr. Diplomat before he crushes and cripples Russia economically. And we already see, some sanctions with the oil. So that's kind of where I'm at. How about you guys?
Yeah, um, I think what he's doing is it's peace through strength, peace through commerce. Everything that he was doing in the Middle East, with, again, no, we're just reporting it, not saying that we agree with it, but everything that he was doing in the Middle East with like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, like I think he's trying to establish some type of a system where he's doing that with Russia. Yeah, I mean, that's the plan. That's that. I mean, they've said that. So, um, if he can somehow establish a peace arrangement between Russia, Ukraine, through commerce, I guess, and what is the end goal in all that is it's to break the ties between China. And that's really where it's at. It's really reconnecting the commerce trade routes to the United States rather than China. And so, yeah,
Comes from
uh,
China.
comes from China, the China flu. Yeah, I think that would be good if we can see a peace agreement. Obviously, a war that's stopped. Yeah,
Brother Matt, do you think what Trump heard on the call, that he really does believe that Putin wants to stop, or is he just kind of playing it up for the world to, you know, really? But he has different thoughts. Does he believe Putin?
I don't know. I'm trying to track. Trump said that we were going to have this really big news, the biggest news ever, right? And we were hit with the Middle East stuff out of the blue. I don't know if that was his backup plan. I don't know if that was the news that he was insinuating at. I know most of us were thinking that it was going to be finally this war that he says he would have had solved in one day, if as soon as he got in office, and that this war would never have happened in the first place. And then he was going to be going to Turkey. And then he's like saying, well, Putin's not going to Turkey. I never had any plans to go to Turkey. What are you talking about? I'm not going to Turkey. I was never going to Turkey. Maybe I will go to Turkey. I feel as if, Putin is not playing along with our negotiation strategy. And I feel as if the whole Middle East thing is really trying to put a gun to his head, saying, you're going to play along or your economy is going to collapse. And this whole thing about oil that you thought you had taken care of, and this whole thing about China that you thought you would be able to pull, is not going to work out. So
China.
I think he's on the last final edges of his negotiation per se. And he's constantly having the virtue signal to the public, because, it's not really virtue signaling to the public, it's virtue signaling to Putin himself. He's messaging to Putin, saying stuff like he's a good guy, I like him, but, because that's the only thing he can do. But I think he's winding down the expiration date where he has ran out of patience.
Yeah. And I saw someone made a really good point too, that it's, to assume that he cares about 5,000 dying a day projects our own moral views onto a country and a culture. I'm not saying culture like the Russian people, but let's just say his paradigm that presumes that he actually cares about that. And if you look at history, it would appear that historically they don't care about sacrificing people just for their imperial ambitions. So that's kind of another thing to consider as well. Like, does he really care that there's thousands dying? It doesn't really. History would say no, Putin. So it does seem like the only thing that is going to. So that's definitely not going to sway him. I think that's more for us to lament that reality. But definitely the economic stuff is going to bring Russia to its knees. And I think again, Trump is doing everything he can because it's going to be a Gaza situation again. The people are going to cry out. And they're going to say, look what Trump is doing to the Russian family. Look what he's killing the people. And Trump is going to go, look, I did all the things and he kept bombing. He kept going. And so now we have to, cut them off.
Yeah, I think it's like we have to remain intellectually honest and consistent. If Ukraine is a proxy of the United States, and Ukraine obviously has been funding this since day one, then it's the United States who is at war with Russia. And who knows, but Putin has a lot of cards to be played. I don't know what what he wants of the United States. I know that he also says positive things about Donald Trump. But it may be that he has a zero tolerance policy, and United States admitting its role and apologizing perhaps isn't quite enough. That there's the concessions where he's not going to be able to keep any annexes or any land that he's taken, probably is a deal breaker. And the fact that the United States is responsible for this war being able to go on for as long as it has, and that we're co-facilitators of these deaths by enabling it and financing it, it's sort of hard to predict what the future is. At this point, I think we should just be grateful that he hasn't launched a nuclear attack against the United States for being at war with him.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if it would be, of course, over for all of us if that happens, because then we're all dropping nukes. But yeah, I mean,
Thank you,
it's
Putin.
I hear what you say about the Ukraine, but like I guess it is unfortunate that the last administration handled it the way it did, because then you have a situation where if you don't fund them, right? If you don't fund them, then they're gonna come. They're gonna come in. They're gonna come in. They're gonna invade and try to take the whole thing, and that's bad for America. So it's like, that's why trying to get it to end has been the thing. But obviously, the last administration, their
We
only
could
goal was
end the
to
war
just give
really
them
easily. We put a bullet in Zelensky's head, and then we say, "Here you go, sorry," and it's over.
here you go, like hand over all of Ukraine.
It's like, here, this is what we did. Here, we'll take care of your enemy for you. That really is us, and this is the way that we make it up to you. So he's dead. Go ahead and take Ukraine. The war is over. Thank you.
Yeah, the war is over, and then Russia is much closer and in a strategic place that they just can't be for us and others as well. So that's just not an option for safety and security. But yeah, it's unfortunate because now there's no there's no way to end. The last administration said we're not gonna try to make the war end. We're just gonna keep funding you because you want to fight. And that's why it's dragged on for so long. So now Trump is trying to end something that we've just been funding with no end in sight. And the end, by the way, I think it involves letting, if there is a real end, it's Putin's not going to give back the land that he took. So it's giving that land, or letting him keep that land, and then they get out. They get out of there. It all stops. But I know, of course, the Ukrainian president said he doesn't want to do that. But that's what are you going to do? That's what he's not going to leave. So either it just keeps fighting, or maybe Trump cuts them off economically, and then it has to stop because they can't
I
even
think it's a
fund it
mafia
anymore.
game. If you're watching The Sopranos, what would happen to Sopranos? I think that that's ultimately what Putin is asking to be seen here. It needs to be someone needs to pay, and even if it's not that person who's at fault, someone needs to pay for what's happened. I'm not saying advocating it as my position. It's just I think behind the scenes,
I mean, he
there's just
started it though.
there's no compromise.
Yeah, but I mean, he started it. He invaded the land, so I mean, it's his fault. He shouldn't have invaded the territory.
Right, but what's he saying? He's saying we started it because you guys were on our border and you were stealing and sniffing our intellectual property, and your NSA and your CIA was infiltrating us. So again, that's why it's a weird thing if I'm going to continue with that mindset that America is the reason why he invaded Ukraine in the first place. So then, therefore, how is America going to talk you out of the war that America sort of the Cold War that America, the tech war, the secret war that America started behind the scenes? Yes, he invaded the land, right? And then America backed Ukraine, financially
Yeah,
speaking. So if I
because
was,
yeah,
if I was in Putin's shoes, maybe like, okay, you did this, then I need, and for playing the Sopranos game, then you need to hand me over one of your people. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth type of mindset. And so they're going to be like, we want everything. I mean, I don't know.
yeah.
I
No, I mean, I understand, and you have a point that part of what we were doing, influenced his decision. But it's also true that he has always wanted control over Ukraine. He believes that it's part of Russia. So it's not it's not a if or, it's like an and. It's both. He wanted an excuse to do it. He wanted a reason to do it, and we were doing things that definitely were provocative,
what do I know?
we were influencing things